Good evening, welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. Well, it's going to be story time again, and I wanted to introduce, if you didn't actually hear the story that Beth wrote, this is the author Elizabeth Martin, who you have not met in this capacity. Normally you've seen her wallying around with Wally Girl. Well, no doubt, or possibly you don't realize that she actually invents the titles on all of our videos, and you will have seen, no doubt, that her grasp of grammar is not always as you might expect it. So here's where we have a role reversal. Normally I do the talking on the videos. Beth obviously does stuff on her own too, but in the main our role is one of me doing the performing side of things, and then which even that we share now, of course, but then we have the role reversal when it comes to writing, because let me just read this about Beth, about the author. Elizabeth Martin is the 10th child of an illiterate farmer and fisherman on the island of Bohol in the Philippines. As a barefoot island girl, she had an impossible dream to graduate from one of the universities in Cebu City. She realized her dream and graduated with a master's in business administration. 8 years in the field of private medicine followed. She has now returned to her roots in the hills of Bohol with her husband, British author Terence Flannery. So, she applies her skills to marketing and management and focuses also on her own writing. The Foreigner's Wife, that's the title of this actual piece that we're going to read now. The Foreigner's Wife is offered as a sampler of her short stories along with the unread letter to my father, which I already read. So, the way that it works is that I go over, I do the editing on her stories, and she does the editing on my videos. That's how it works. So, somebody made a comment, and I'd been aware of this on a slight change of subject. I've been aware that I tend to look at the small monitor screen, and I tend to look at that as I'm doing my narrations, well, when I'm doing any of my videos, which I should be looking straight into the camera, but the temptation, the tendency is to get attracted, and it's like talking to another human being, even though that might be an exaggeration in my case. Well, somebody did mention that, and you are quite right, that I don't look into the camera, and I'm going to make an attempt to change that with this one. So, by Elizabeth Martin, The Foreigner's Wife. I'm reading the newspaper while waiting for my coffee and chocolate cake to arrive at my table. In an article on mixed marriage, the question is posed as to why a Filipina would choose to marry a foreigner rather than one of her own race. The article detailed two cases, one of a foreigner who was used and betrayed by his Filipino wife, and the second told the story of how the marriage of a Filipina to a foreigner ultimately led to her death. What is made clear by the article is that both the foreigner and the Filipina run the risk of an ending far from what they hoped for. At best, it may be no better than a marriage within their own race, which one assumes is probably what they are seeking to escape. At worst, as in the case of the Filipina in the article, it can bring betrayal and possible death. Foreigners have also been murdered for their money by a scheming Filipina and her behind-the-scenes boyfriend. By the same token, Filipinas may also be victims of murder or find themselves taken and forced into prostitution. Once they are in the foreign country of the spouse, they can find themselves defenseless and without support. In these cases, the abusive spouse will usually take their passport from them, which often robs them with the ability to escape. The act of confiscating the passport is also common to Filipinas in domestic employ. In some countries, the rights of women in general are severely limited due to strict religious rules of dress and behavior. This may even restrict the right of a woman to walk freely on the street without a male escort or in a mode of dress demanded by the religious-based laws of that country. On the next table, a Filipino couple in their mid-40s were also discussing the article. Their voices were loud enough to be clearly heard. The woman is convinced a Filipino would marry a foreigner only for money, firmly believing it cannot possibly be for love. While this is a sweeping generality, it is a viewpoint commonly held by many. The woman does have a point. Some Filipinas see such a marriage as a purely practical arrangement. She would hope to gain financial security and the foreigner a new beginning, presumably with a younger, attractive woman. A same-race marriage in the Philippines may well seem to be made in heaven, but so often will end in hell. This is increasingly so with the advent of online dating via social media sites such as Facebook, where nothing may be what it seems. With private chat rooms, the conversations flow freely back and forth, but may often be based on what the participants want to believe of themselves and each other, rather than hard reality. People looking for love and a future may find themselves emotionally committed before all is revealed. Motivated by the hardships that they have seen their parents endure, the modern Filipino may decide that life in the computer age is allowing them more choices. They may feel that reducing romantic expectations leaves them free to make a choice of partner based more on common sense than hoping for the handsome prince in a make-believe scenario from some Hollywood movie. There is no doubt that it can take courage for a Filipino to decide to look for a foreigner online. Since many of these women have never met a foreigner face to face, their hope may be to find someone who will take them to an easier, more secure life. As much as the Filipina enjoys a reputation for being loving and caring, foreigners also are generally regarded as being faithful and considerate, as well as being able to support their families. A big plus for a Filipina. In either case, it may be true or false on a case-by-case basis. The waitress comes with my order and stops to chat with me as I smile hello. I can tell by her accent she is from the same province of Bohol as myself, and so the rapport is instant and easy. "Where's your date? Is he late?" she wants to know. I shake my head. "I'm alone," I tell her, and then, "I'm just reading about marriage between Filipinas and foreigners." I see a lot of Filipinas with foreigners in downtown Cebu," she tells me. "Some are obviously the foreigners' wives, but others are not. Maybe they are just girlfriends or only out for fun." At which we both smile. As she left me, and as if by arrangement, a foreigner with a Filipina on his arm walks into the cafe and sits at the table opposite mine. A typical Filipina in her build, she is slender and petite, and her clothing is stylish but modest. She wears patterned tights which are close-fitting and in the current fashion. Her long-sleeved top reaches down to mid-thigh. In her V-neck I can see a small gold crucifix on a chain, and she wears a gold wedding ring and engagement ring. She sees that the critical eyes of the Filipino couple are upon her, and probably from experience she knows that she is being judged for her choice of partner and found wanting. Their disapproval and hostility can be felt across the room. I make eye-to-eye contact with her and give her a smile to ease her obvious discomfort. She is glad of a friendly face and returns my smile. The foreigner looks American, tattooed and overweight and perspiring from the heat of the day. He complains about the air conditioning being inadequate. His shorts are baggy and down below the knee, and his shirt looks like something you might buy in a souvenir shop in Disneyland. All he needs is the Mickey Mouse ears. He has little to say to his wife as he talks on his cell phone, and he is openly interested in other women passing by. The waitress comes to their table to get their order. He has a loud voice and his accent is not easy to understand, making the task of the waitress a difficult one. He gives the order without asking his wife for her preference. Out of respect and perhaps sympathy for the wife, the waitress asks her if there is anything she wants, but the husband cuts in with his "that's all." I feel sorry for her. She is beautiful and expensively dressed, but like a bird in a cage, her freedom is so limited. Her demeanor in the presence of her obviously domineering husband is submissive. Makeup and jewelry cannot hide the sadness in her face. It would be easy to assume that she sold her true happiness for the financial security of marriage to a man who didn't respect her. But this would only be an opinion. Too often, the assumptions we make about others are founded on nothing more than bias and perhaps not a small degree of jealousy. The irony of such criticism of those in mixed marriages is that most Filipino men and women consider light or white skin a must when judging whether someone is beautiful. Some of the most beautiful actors and celebrities are children of mixed marriages and naturally have lighter skin. Where celebrities are concerned, there is no sign of negative judgment. Most of the cosmetic beauty advertising is aimed at convincing a brown-skinned people that white skin is beautiful. In the cosmetic commercials, the use of the word light, fair, white are all connected to beautiful. Until recently, the big fast food companies and even the banks have featured Caucasians with blonde children in their ideal family advertising. Such is the power of advertising, especially on television. People have different needs and make decisions based on their circumstances which are known only to themselves. Others who fail to understand this, and being sadly in need of all the facts, will usually be hasty in their judgment. The Philippines is just one of the countries of the world where one of the biggest exports is people. With unemployment high, working abroad is considered by most to be an acceptable alternative. Women working abroad will be sending a large portion of their earned income home. The money may be used to support parents or to send siblings to college in an effort to increase their chances of finding employment and supporting themselves. Reasons vary greatly as to why a woman will leave home to join a man in a foreign country and enter into a mixed marriage. It may be that they're doing it with the intention to help their family in the Philippines. This is not to say that while the decision to marry may be based partly on financial need in the beginning, love may not come later with time. Foreigners who bond best with their Filipino wives are those who understand and embrace their way of life. It's true to say that the importance of the family in the mind of the average Filipino will make it difficult, if not impossible, for the woman to turn her back on her family, even as she marries outside of her culture. There are those who continue to live in the Philippines with their foreigner husbands, though this is more the exception than the rule. In many respects, their life comes with difficult challenges, as neighbours and even strangers they meet during a normal day will openly judge them for their decision. For those women, adverse comments from strangers can be hurtful, but from friends and relatives and loved ones, the comments will be like a knife into the heart. Time can heal all, but time passes slowly for those waiting for the approval of others. After reading the article and thinking about the two cases, I feel sympathy for both the foreigner and the Filipina in the article. He had the misfortune of meeting a Filipino who was unworthy of his love and time. It was certainly the same for the woman who paid the ultimate price for her mistake. Everyone should be careful and not rush in just because they are lonely. In the rush of hope, it can be easy to fall in love with someone you've met on the internet. She may tell him that he is the most handsome man in the world and that she loves him so much, but he should keep his feet on the ground. The same rule applies to the Filipina. As we have seen, the promise of love in a foreign land may come at a terrible price. There's the reason why women should be careful in choosing a partner, especially a foreigner. She must know his background, and not just his culture, but how he responds to all aspects of her own culture. There should be enough time to know each other before making a commitment. The question is, how can you know that certain person better if the relationship is conducted online? Couples who see each other often and talk every day agree that while they were still discovering new attitudes in their partner, even after they are married and living under the same roof. Couples who take the risk and are successful in finding love and happiness so far away from their homes truly deserve their happy ending. It might be a young Filipino girl who wants to support her family through her husband's wealth. It can be an older foreign man who is looking for a loving wife with whom to make a new start. After they say, "I do," will come the same challenge of making the marriage work that all married couples face. In the end, it will be love that holds them together, and that can't be bought with money. In the words of the popular song, "Can't Buy Me Love." It's time for me to leave, and I make my goodbyes to my new friend the waitress and exit the cafe. It's a beautiful day in Cebu City, and I must catch the ferry to my home in Bohol. One eventful day in 2013, an earthquake of 7.2 magnitude struck the Philippines and changed the lives of many. In my own case, my life changed in a wonderful way, as that was the day I met the man I would marry. Soon enough I learned that love does find a way, and despite the tremors and aftershocks, my husband-to-be and I crossed the city to meet for the first time. I have read many accounts of the first meeting of partners-to-be. Common to many is the claim that it was love at first sight. I think of myself as a down-to-earth woman, not given to such fanciful ideas, but as the taxi sped across the city, something in my heart was telling me that this might be the one. I'm a practicing Christian, and so it was important to me that I find a man of good character, honest and true. Infidelity is not an option either for me or for my partner. I remember my text to Terence prior to meeting for the first time. Please be honest with me. Are you not in a relationship? Since I am seriously looking for my partner-to-be, and I pray it is you. His response was what I wanted to hear, and it rang true. I am not. If I find the one, I would not betray her with another woman. I am looking for one woman, not many. We talked through the night in spite of the aftershocks, and before we parted we promised that there would be no others until we were sure of our feelings. We still have those text messages on our phone, and I read them from time to time. Since then we have faced many challenges, and despite an age difference that was greater than either of us had ever thought would work, we have a happy marriage. Terence is not wealthy, so we live modestly with many financial restraints. Some trials we have won through and others we have not. There have been times of sadness, but so many more of great joy. We hope for a child to complete our family, and this is in our daily prayers. I walk to the corner of Collins Street. My husband is waiting for me and pacing up and down as I am late. As I kiss him on the cheek, he smiles and tells me I am on Filipino time. It's his standing joke on how the Filipino mind does not work in real time, but I am not offended. Since marrying my foreigner, I have learned to accept his British sense of humour. I have also learned to accept many other things about being in a mixed marriage. The criticism and the comments, the judgmental looks and the stares still affect me, but I'm working on that. Through it all, I can see that when two people of a different culture come together, in a small way, the world is forever changed and enriched. Stereotypes break down, and with them prejudice, and that makes the world a better place. I know the way ahead will bring more challenges, both from my own race and from that of my husband, but I am willing to pay the price, whatever it is. I went searching, but it was love that found me. I'm still a down-to-earth woman, so when talking with my friends, I always say that for me, it was love at second sight. That was a story by Elizabeth Martin, and this has been A Foreigner in the Philippines. Thank you for watching.